Good morning, everyone. My name is Mickey. I am a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat between meals no matter what, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. My abstinence date is January 3rd, 2023. That means that today I have 125 days back in GreySheet, and this is my third time in GreySheet. So I'll tell you what it was like. And so for me, as a young child, I was, my family of origin, there was alcoholism. My mother, and at that time, I didn't know that. I was just 8 years old, and I had a brother who was 2 years younger than me, and we were left alone a lot by my mother when she would go out and leave us at night. And so when it came to food, we were left on our own to figure it out, and that wasn't very easy. If you can imagine an 8-year-old trying to cook something for her brother. And it was very frightening, but I remember thinking very clearly that no matter what, I was going to survive. And so a short time after that, we went to live with my father, who remarried, and that was not a good situation. The father that I idolized pretty much abandoned me to my stepmother as far as discipline and raising went. And she was not a kind person at all. And so when I would go and visit my grandparents in the area, I grew up in North Florida, food was a comfort to me because they treated us like kids and not little adults. And we had lots of good food and we had fun with each other. And those were some of the best times in my life that I can recall. And so then I would go back to stay with my father and his wife. So there was my brother and me, and she had 2 kids, and then they had my sister between them, so there were 5. And so I went from this kid who had a little brother to a kid who had all these siblings, and I became responsible for them. And there were physical, discipline and, name calling and things like that. So, but as food would go, we were not allowed to just go and eat whatever we wanted to from the kitchen. It was only really during mealtime. So I would sneak food that I thought nobody would miss when people weren't home. I babysat when I was 13, starting when I was 13. And through listening to other members share, I realized I stole food when I babysat. And as a teenager, I didn't really struggle with my weight. And that's mostly because I really didn't have access to lots of food. So I drank and I, hung around with kind of a bad crowd. And so moving forward, I got married when I was 18 because I was pregnant. And I remember the thing that was foremost on my mind was that I had escaped my home life. And that's the way I got out. I had 3 kids, and with each kid, I gained a lot of weight, a lot. Like on my 3rd one, I think I weighed over 200 pounds when I had him. So probably like you guys, I tried every diet on the planet, all kinds of books, weight loss plans. I took medications. I went to doctors that prescribed basically amphetamines to lose weight, and I would lose weight. And I was still drinking at this time, but I didn't think I had a problem with that. And I So let's see, I got divorced. I went to nursing school. I got divorced. So I was around 30. And at that time, I was working hard and I was a single mom and I didn't really have a weight problem. It was kind of came and went in my life. I never got really overweight. I always managed to lose weight before it got out of control. I had my fourth child in my second marriage, and that ended badly as well. I took my youngest child with me and we went to California. I went out there as a nurse, and mostly I was drinking, but only after I got home from work. But at the same time, I had developed a habit that I started in Florida because I felt like, I couldn't provide things for my kids that I wanted to give them. I was shoplifting. And what I was doing then was shoplifting alcohol because I wanted to hide the cost from my third husband. And looking back now, I see I was also shoplifting food, pretty much anything I could get my hands on, and was very successful at it until I wasn't. And so when I was around 42, I got caught, and I took my very first and only trip to jail. And that was humiliating, of course. And I was charged with felony burglary. And as a nurse, that could have destroyed my career. I got an attorney. She sent me to a therapist because she couldn't understand why I was shoplifting. And that therapist sent me to Alcoholics Anonymous because I confessed how much I drank to her. Anyway, from the time I went to AA, I got sober and never had another drink. I have been sober for 18 years in AA. At the time that I got sober, I weighed 230 pounds. And I thought that once I was not drinking anymore, I would lose weight. Well, I didn't, because then food became central to my life. So then I tried, how I got into GreySheet, and this is what happened. I went to OA, and I remember going to the OA meeting and seeing that everybody there was overweight. And I didn't understand that, but someone had mentioned this thing called a GreySheet, that it was a food plan that you could follow. So because OA allowed you to choose your own food plan. Well, my food plan of choice is everything I can get my hands on. And so I searched on the internet. I looked for GreySheet, the GreySheet. I couldn't find it. And that's because it comes with a sponsor. And I tried OA 90. And I did that for a little while and had some success, but they allow grains. And, as you know, that's one of the things that we don't eat. And there's a good reason for that. So plus the people in OA were just kind of, I don't know, I didn't really click with them. And so in my search for the GreySheet, I found the GreySheeters Anonymous online. And this was in 2011. And so at that time, I was still living out in California, married for the fourth time. And I got a sponsor. At that time, we didn't have Zoom or, it was the phone bridge. And I went to live meetings in Albany. I'd still go to that Zoom meeting. And I didn't go all the time, but I went enough. And I did what my sponsor suggested, and I lost 90 pounds. And for the first time in my life, I was in a normal sized body, and I was just overjoyed about it. However, I wasn't doing everything that we do in this program. And you don't know what you don't know. And just to say that when I came back this time, I went on the GreyNet and I searched my posts on GreyNet all the way back and to see like where I went wrong. And it was because I was mostly focused on weight loss and not doing the work. Now, when I was in AA, I did all the work. I had a very good sponsor. I worked my program really hard. So when I moved back to Florida in 2013, I think. I lost my abstinence because one of my kids suggested to me that, you really don't need to do this. You could do something else. How long are you going to weigh and measure like that? And so I was out there for a bit. I came back into GreySheet. I got another sponsor. And again, I was able to work my program the easier, softer way. I was allowed to text my food, text generic. I was not required to do anything. It was suggested that I do meetings. I did some phone bridge meetings, but I was not making phone calls. And also, I was allowed to flex, and I was on a line, and there were certain foods that were allowed that for me are just gateways to compulsive eating. So because my way of my compulsive eating style is to come home from work and just eat whatever delightful things I could think of. Basically, now I know I was eating my feelings, had lots of obvious trauma in my life, like everybody else does. And instead of sitting with them and facing them, I ate. So about a year and a half ago, a little more, I moved in with my son and his wife to help save money for them and me. And the day I moved, I left my 3 weighed and measured meals in the place I moved out of accidentally. And I decided, no big deal, I'll just eat some frozen dinner here. That's because one of my kids again said, you don't really need to do that. You can just control your eating. And of course, my desire all my life is just to be able to eat like a normal eater. And so I was not abstinent, and I got to 207 pounds. This time, when I came back, I had tried different diets, carnivore diet, intuitive eating, the being fat and happy plan, and just giving up and accepting that that's who I am, and living in a fat body and being happy. Well, none of that worked, obviously. I was at, I don't know, living with other people because I'm very happy living alone, and eating compulsively, feeling hopeless. I felt that pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization that the big book talks about. And I wouldn't kill myself, but I didn't want to be alive. And I felt like, this is it. I'm 61 years old. I'm just going to be this fat person, and I'm just useless, or I'm only useful to people. There's nothing for me. And I thought, okay, I'll contact GreySheet. So I sent an email to GreySheet, said that I would like to come back. I received a response right away. And the person who contacted me was somebody whose name I recognized from the past and who terrified me. I had never seen her before because at the time there was no Zoom, but I knew she was very serious about abstinence. That's who my sponsor is today. And she was talking to me on the phone, and she said, okay, I have this plan called the Relapse Prevention Program. I'm going to send it to you, and let's see if you're willing to do what's on there. So she did. I read it over, and I called her back, and I said, I'll do it. And she said, really? And I said, yes. And At first, I thought it was a lot, and I told her so, and she just said, I hear you, and that's it. She didn't give me any wiggle room. So I call my food to my sponsor. I don't text my food to her. I'm not allowed to flex ever in my life. I chose for dinner the 12-ounce raws, and that I have to stick with that now. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I do every day, I'm going to see, let me find it. Okay, I obviously call my sponsor. Suggested that I do at least 3 meetings a week, and they have to be Zoom video. I have to have my video on for at least 3 meetings a week. So I chose on my own to do at least a meeting a day. And sometimes on the weekends, I'll do 10. And that happened over time. I read 1 page from the big book every day. And on my own, I decided to read 1 page from Living Abstinent and the GSA 12 and 12. I post on GreyNet and the Facebook page that we have. I listen to 1 YouTube qualification. I pray and meditate for 5 minutes, and I make 3 outreach calls, and I take calls, and I do that every day. And I have a checklist, and I mark it off every day. This time, because I'm doing the work and I don't ever want to leave this program again, I love it. I am so glad we have Zoom. I love all the people in the program. I get something from every meeting I go to. I love the meetings that are video optional too, because I could do things and be on a meeting at the same time, like when I'm driving home from work, etc. This time I am not focused on my weight loss. Yes, I have lost weight. I still have a ways to go, but that will happen as long as I'm abstinent. I have some family matters that I have to deal with, and being abstinent has given me this incredible presence of mind that I've never had, even in sobriety. The ability to zip it and just go about my business and not feeling like I have to address everything that somebody says or does to me. Moving in about a month to my own place, and it's going to be a lot more expensive and everything else, but it's going to be mine. And these are all things that abstinence is doing for me. And I am absolutely grateful. I am doing everything, and I have to choose a live event to go to within a year. I have done that. I have to get a service commitment. I'm working on that. And you know, everything that she told me to do, I do today. And it's been the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I am available to sponsor. And I have had 1 sponsee, and I introduced her to the relapse prevention program, and she left. But that's okay. I understand. And so I'm very grateful to all of you for inviting me and for having this meeting and for your enthusiasm that I see for GreySheet. And I only hope I stay abstinent so that I can be abstinent long enough to do more in GreySheet. So thank you. And I don't eat no matter what.